Okay.
Erin Flynn, how are you?
I am awesome, Lauren Womble Patel. Thank you for having me.
You made it easy by not adding O'Malley to your name. So for those of you watching, Erin and I go way back. I don't even want to tell you how far back we go, but let me tell you who she is now. So Erin is a professor at the business school at Bentley University. She is also an independent consultant focusing on strategy and marketing, and has a specialty in the fitness space, but let's not limit her there. She was a D1 cross-country runner. Is that right?
That's right.
Yes. And I know that running and fitness has been a huge part of her life, unlike me. So it's fun that she's always been my friend, even though I'm a slug, and she's a gazelle. So I wanted to talk to you today, Erin, because you have a really kind of a different background than a lot of the people in our community. But I think that there are many people who are independent consultants who either are also working in secondary education as professors or who strive to do that in some way. Mm. So I know I've actually been approached, not to teach, but with the thought of, well, would you want to come teach at XYZ University? And my answer is absolutely not. I would be a horrible teacher. I have no desire to shape young minds, but I think it's very admirable for people that do. So first question for you is, this seems to me to be a lot of work to have two completely different jobs. So I want to know first, what does your life look like within both of these worlds? And how do you kind of split your time and your energy? Where do you find overlaps? But what's the week in the life of Erin? And how does this actually all work together?
Yeah. First of all, for your viewers who probably already know this, but let me confirm, Lauren is not a slug. Lauren is one of my smartest friends who has done so many dynamic things in life, and so many people look up to you, myself included. So that's first things first. But your question about, this seems like a lot of work and you're doing two jobs rolled into one. How does that work? The answer is it can be that if you make it that, and that's not sustainable. Where it works is when the two, and by that I mean work as a professor and work as a consultant, are complementary. And that's one thing I learned when I got into higher ed, was a lot of what I was doing first in the classroom and then extending into research and strategy through the university was complementary to strategy work that I could or was already doing in consulting. And that's what I try to do, is streamline my efforts. I look for consulting gigs, long-term projects, however they manifest, where the work that I'm doing in the classroom can add value to the consulting work that I'm doing, or the work that I'm doing from a research perspective at the university can add value in the consulting realm, and vice versa. The consulting work I do, I bring right back into the classroom to add value to the students, those young minds that I'm shaping that you don't want to shape.
Don't want to shape them. What types of topics, what types of topics do you find actually complement across those three areas?
Yeah. Strategy from a broad stroke. So that can be corporate strategy, marketing strategy is really my sweet spot, but that marketing is a broad area of focus. It can encompass a lot of things, not just advertising. In fact, advertising is never a part of the work that I do. All of it is around brand strategy, consumer positioning, consumer insights, growth strategy, and that then spills into corporate strategy. And then diversity, equity, and inclusion as well. It's something that I've focused on a lot in the last 5-6 years. And a lot of companies are looking to find their way in that space, especially around racial equity. So the work that I do here at Bentley, as an institution that's also very invested in racial equity and DEI work, I find that that has a lot of value to companies that are looking for expertise.
Yeah, no, that's great, because you're bringing in, you're kind of at the forefront of the research and the new frameworks and the thinking in the space.
Right.
And then you're bringing the diversity, equity, and inclusion portion into that, which I think has a huge halo impact into just marketing strategy, so those three things together come in and make this pretty unique. Okay, chicken or egg? What was the path to get here? Like, were you a professor that then started to consult, or were you a consultant that started to profess? Like, how did that, what was
It
your
can work
path
both
into
ways.
where you are today?
Yeah, it can work both ways. I've seen it happen both ways with different colleagues. For me, I was a professor first, consultant second.
Huh,
And
okay.
that was really because I had built a career for over 10 years in corporate sales and marketing, and I was doing what you were doing when you were in management consulting, working for the established firms that you were employed by before you started your own practice. And that means nights, weekends, long hours, all of that. And when I had my son 10 years ago, that lifestyle wasn't feasible, especially because my husband was working at the same company. So we had a lot of times same trips to the same location. The childcare situation was tricky, among other considerations. So it gave me the opportunity to think a little differently about my career and how I wanted to angle it once I became a mom. And I always knew that career was a huge piece of my identity and I wanted to build it. And it's been a nice kind of inflection point for me. It's given me some wings that I didn't have before in terms of being able to be more entrepreneurial in the
Mhm.
steps that I've taken. So that's why I got into higher ed, is because I wanted flexibility in my schedule. I needed an environment that wasn't as stringent as corporate sales and marketing was at the time. This was pre-COVID, right? So like remote work and hybrid work, virtual meetings weren't a thing. So everything was an airplane trip, in-person meetings, and so forth. It put a lot of strain on my time. That might have been different. I might have made some different decisions if I had a child post-COVID, but I'm
Uh-huh.
glad that it's taken the trajectory that it did, and that I got into higher ed first and then saw the complement of, like you said, the strategy work that I was doing and how that could really help companies that wanted advanced thought in certain areas that they knew were growth levers for them, but that maybe they didn't have the bandwidth or the resources to invest against it in-house.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, little blip in the video. You were saying it's hard to think about what a kind of standard time split is because you have so much variability. Um, how much, okay, so let's say, like, thinking about your bell curve and your deviations, are we talking about some weeks it's 80% in one direction and 20 in the other, and then other weeks it completely flips? Or are we looking at, well, I know that it's going to be about 40% in one area, and sometimes it's 60, but sometimes it stretches more, and so I just have to stretch with that?
Yeah, the latter. I have to stretch and be fluid, just be honest. I strive to have it be roughly a 60-40 split in semester. So 60% Bentley, 40% consulting. Outside of semester, I'd strive for it to be the reverse, if not more heavily weighted toward consulting.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like if you're able to make that sort of shift, you've got the flexibility that you were looking for from the beginning. I mean, I can even say in my work, and I'm consulting and then I'm trying to run this firm and recruit and grow, and I would like to be 80% honestly on the firm and now 20% on client work, and I've structured it that way. But there's just some weeks where, like,
Yeah.
it's just not, like, it can't be. And so what ends up happening is I do stretch a little bit in mornings and evenings, and then stuff just doesn't happen, and that's the way it goes. And it's my stuff that always gets deprioritized, which is, I guess, great for my clients, but frustrating for me personally.
Yeah. It's hard to get out of that rat race. So sometimes I think it does require the boldness to break the mold. And then other times it requires the adaptability to just recognize that that's how business goes and you got to prioritize what's right in front of you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's boldness to break the mold. Let's talk about you did something. I'm not going to name names here because we're
Mm.
working this, but you did something that made me think you find work really differently than I find work. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
this is interesting. So almost everything I do is referral based. Like, people see what I see on LinkedIn, whatever, but, like, it's all referral based. This person, this person. And then within, once you get into a client, it's different businesses or organizations within that client. But you are a bit more bold than me. So I would love to hear about your strategy for finding new clients or reinvigorating work with clients, and kind of how that's working for you, and what tips you might have for others to be a little bit more proactive.
Yeah, you're giving me more credit than I deserve. I'm not as proactive as it seems. My business has entirely come from referrals as well. But one thing I've learned as I've gone around along my career journey, especially after this inflection point of I had my son, I left the traditional corporate and sales path and the whole ladder that I saw in front of me in terms of the growth trajectory and moved into this more nebulous space of entrepreneurship, running my own consulting business along with being a professor. Part of that was also putting fulfillment and purpose at the forefront of my decision making, where it wasn't the absolute North Star before that. So I'm really driven by things that interest me, things that have impact and purpose beyond dollars and cents. And the dollars and cents matter. And I want to make sure that I'm, of course, delivering return on investment for clients, but I also want to do good in the world.
Yeah.
And I've seen that you can do that. And that's really motivating for me. And I just also love intellectual stimulation, and I'm driven by intellectual curiosity, which is why being in a university environment is a great fit for me. Yeah. So that it all aligns with this concept of being more organic in the way that I'm developing my career than it was before. In the corporate path, it was already prescribed for me. And then I was just reaching on the ladder. Like I want the next title, the next tier up.
Yeah.
And now with this entrepreneurial venture, that there is not a ladder. I have to create the ladder, which has been unsettling in some ways, but also allows me to leverage intellectual curiosity and purpose and passion as the drivers of the decisions that I make. So in a scenario like the one you're talking about, where I saw a press release from a company that was doing something outside of the fitness space, or at least the vertical within fitness, where I have a lot of contacts. And I thought, I like what they're doing. That would be interesting to help them bring this new product category that they're launching into the running and athletic space where I'm well connected. I went after that opportunity because I thought on the off chance that they'd be interested, that's something where I could add a lot of value to them and it would be really intellectually stimulating for me.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's I think that's working out. I mean, it seems like it's working out great for you. I don't know if I don't really approach it that way myself, you know. I haven't really approached it proactively until the last 4 months, like hardly at all. Like I said, it's all been through referrals and it's all kind of been based on what I've done rather than what I like to do. I think in my case, I don't have a particular, like I've worked almost now at least over half my career in enterprise technology. Not that I am super passionate about enterprise technology, but I love business models and I love being able to figure out a way to commercialize something in a way that's really helpful for both a customer and a company, and like thinking about how that whole like flow of dollars works in a way that's good for everybody. And there's been so much movement in enterprise technology that's just kind of where I've landed. But that's not the kind of thing you usually see about on a press release until it's launched. So it's, kind of been handed from one person to another as people try and sort those types of problems out. But, well, great. Well, thank you, Erin. This was super great to catch up with you. And hold on, because I'll just talk to you for a second on I have a call at 2, but just hold on. I'm going to say goodbye. Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for listening.